friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Hello, everyone. You are listening to the MC Lars podcast. And I know y'all probably been thinking the same thing. Where you been, Lars? Where you been? This is episode 116. It is Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. And I've gone to the monthly format on the podcast. Now, there's a lot of reasons why I've done that. Mainly, I want to keep doing the podcast, but I want to make it good. I don't want to rush it. I want to enjoy the process. I want it to be fun, and I want to have quality guests. And doing it every week, not that I haven't had quality guests, it became draining. And, I've been doing this podcast some form or another since 2006. I took pretty long hiatus from the first year to when I brought it back. But doing it every week is fun, but it's for the passion. And, the main reason why I do it is to talk to people I respect, to promote the stuff I'm working on. And I'm not really working on a lot right now, and I'm not touring. I really want to. And I think when the pandemic started, which was almost a year ago, I felt like doubling down on everything because I wanted to preserve my creative strands of all the stuff I did related to music while maintaining being a parent, being a father, and just to prove that I could do it. And I will always do cartoons. I will always do music. I will always do the podcast. I'll always keep doing the Hatchet Chat. I'll always keep doing the Nerdcore streams with my friends, as long as I can. And I'll always keep doing the Patreon. But I think that knowing, the return cost benefit it's good to be honest with yourself. So I can keep making this a positive, fun, organic endeavor. So anyway, if you're missing me one week, go listen to some of the old episodes because there are a ton of episodes. This is episode 116. This month's episode is brought to you by the Patreon Larsens. If you want to hear my Star Wars raps, this month I am doing, yes, that is correct, A New Hope, Star Wars A New Hope, and the holiday special. So tune in to patreon.com/MCLars for that. Shout out to the new supporters, Ali Freed MC, Old One, and Punk Curmudgeon. Shout out to the old ones, Loon Arctic, David, and Mark. I appreciate y'all. And Patreon supporters get the annual concert. They get merch. They get essays, videos. So check that out. So let's get into it. Let's start with our question of the month. I asked a question on social media. The Larsens drop knowledge just like Wikipedia. What you think about this or that? Let me guess. These are the messages that some of y'all left.
Please leave a message after the tone.
So this month I asked a very controversial question. Who is your favorite Wu-Tang member and why? Let's go to the phones. Oh shoot, our first caller. Look at this. It's Brian from Suburban Legends. What?
Hello, MC Lars. This is Brian W. Clem. You may know me from such times as we've been touring together everywhere for about 30 years. And I'm calling in regards to your request on my favorite Wu-Tang Clan member. I would like to buy a vowel and say I like them all for different reasons. Please discuss that amongst yourselves. So why do you like each member individually? Let's broaden the topic. Anyway, love you, XOXO, Brian Clem, out!
This is for the children. Before you even had a name, you were screaming Wu-Tang. I should have done that last part. Sounds stupid. Love you, bye.
That is my homie Brian Clem from Suburban Legends, who we shared a love of hip-hop together since our work touring in 2007 and beyond. And he was always an advocate of our projects doing stuff together. So thank you, Brian. That's a good answer. Yes, they're all great. I agree. So let's go to the phones.
Who is my favorite member from Wu-Tang? My favorite member is Redman. And that is because, interesting story about this, I used to work valet down at a casino in Tucson, Arizona. What happened was all of Wu-Tang was there. They were kind of waiting on their vehicle. For some reason, they decided to Uber it. But Redman asked me, he's like, yo, what's up? Where's the nearest Denny's to here? Give him directions. I'm like, you go 10 minutes down this way, it's on the left side. All of a sudden, somebody in the back goes, hey, we're going to IHOP. He goes, nah, y'all know I don't fuck with IHOP. We're going to Denny's. And I was just like, all right, Denny's is the better choice. He's like, yeah, that's why I want to go there. I just kind of walked away. And since that day on, I'm just like, dude, all right, Denny's is my spot. Redmond is my guy. And it's kind of where it ended. That was a special call from Tucson, Arizona. Thank you, homie.
I wanted to say that Redman, technically he's not part of Wu-Tang. He's like an affiliate. But recently I saw a few years ago he was saying how he's the 11th member of Wu-Tang. But you make a good point. They're inseparable. And of course, he's done all this stuff with Method Man, but that's a great story. It's good to hear about his taste in late night diners. All right. Next up, we have a call from my man, Joseph Olliger, down in St. Pete, Tampa. And Joe produced a lot of the songs on Lars Attacks. He did live sound for me for a few tours. A talented dude. He was in a band with John Longley called I Am One. They used to be called Flash Fire. I don't know if they're still active, but they've played some shows. And when I asked Joe after he called in if there's anything else I wanted to say, this is what he said. I'm now digital content producer for Drew Garabo Live. We're the #1 rated afternoon primetime FM slot in Tampa Bay, which is a top 20 market in the U.S. This past year in COVID, we surpassed most of our other clusters as one of the highest rated shows in the company, in part due to my efforts to innovate the face of the show by producing entirely with green screen to get people to watch from home since they were no longer commuting due to lockdowns. My biggest personal push right now is at The Joey Flash on Twitch. It's pop culture, gaming, and soon to be music streams. I'm working up to interviews out there as well, so I'd love to get you on, blah, blah, blah. So we might do a thing where I come and talk on his show too. But anyway, I thought it was cool he called in. Years ago, I gave Joey the Tao of Wu, the RZA's book. And I think it sparked some things in his mind. He was always kind of into hip hop, but when we did Lars Attacks, he really proved how good he was as a hip hop producer. So check it out. This is a call from Joey Flash. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey Lars, it's Joey Flash. So Wu-Tang, for members, I would have to say it's come down to RZA and Jizza. As a producer, obviously RZA, Jizza is a lyricist because Liquid Swords is my favorite album out of all of them. For me, I grew up loving Hong Kong kung fu movies just like them. So I watched classic Jackie Chan movies, but I also watched the old Gordon Liu movies, like The 36th Chamber of Shaolin and Legend of Master Killer. And most people might know Gordon Liu as Pai Mei from Kill Bill. So RZA as a producer really appealed to me because his appreciation for those films, which obviously inspired all of the Wu-Tang, it really shows in the beats where he took the music, he sampled it and he turned it into the music instead of just going with the 808s and the hi-hat. And it really created a unique culture that drove beat making forward. And I think it really set the tone for a lot of hip-hop to grow.
That's great insight, Joey. I mean, I know you're into the kung fu movies, the martial arts movies, and you're right. Wu-Tang really put the East Coast back on the map after everything went to the West Coast with Dre and Snoop and G-Funk. And so that's a good point, man, about the aesthetics of Wu-Tang and Liquid Swords, probably the best Wu-Tang solo record. I would say that and Return to the 36 Chambers by ODB, two of my favorite Wu-Tang solo records. If y'all haven't heard it, check out the Broken Record podcast with Rick Rubin and RZA talking about creativity in quarantine, because they're just two hip-hop fans like just getting into it about hip hop and their love for each other. It's a really good interview. So be sure to check that flavor out. All right. Next we got my man, Chad from Fago Lovers. Thanks for calling in, Chad. What do you got to say?
Chad of FagoLovers.net here. Who is my favorite Wu-Tang Clan member, you ask? It would definitely have to be RZA, because MC skills just always catch listeners off guard with his witty, off-the-wall flows that are combined with plentiful, flavorful verbiage. Just totally just melts your mind like, boom, whoa, did he just say that? He's making you think about what your average hip-hop fan would consider good flow, breath control, and wordplay by deliberately going against the rules of hip-hop. Not to mention, his slam and production skills just simply motivate your mind and body to do something in your life. It's pure raw energy, how music should be. Not to mention, I'm a huge fan of the Gravediggers, which, the RZA is part of as the Resurrector. Not a lot of people know, but the Gravediggers' 6 Feet Deep debut LP was recorded before Wu-Tang Clan's 36 Chambers. Knowledge for your mind. Now, if I had to choose a Wu-Tang Clan affiliate, Shabazz the Disciple all day. Enough said.
Chad, thank you, man. So, Chad, works at Fago Lovers, and that's a Juggalo news site. They always post our Hatchet Chats. He's always at the shows. I met him at the Dark Carnival Games convention in Denver when I opened for ICP. He's a great guy. And Chad, that's a good point. A lot of people don't realize that the first Gravediggers records with Prince Paul was actually recorded before 36 Chambers. RZA was in between projects trying to get things together. So that album came out like at an interesting time in his career. And it's like a horrorcore classic. If you haven't heard that record, 6 Feet Deep, peep that Gravediggers records because it is flawless. For more information on the Gravediggers records, check out Mike Eagle's interview with Prince Paul on Well, What Happened Was, which was a podcast series they did. Okay, here we got a vote for Method Man.
Lars, Jack's Phantom, the Exquisite Corpse Cabaret. For my money, it would absolutely be Method Man. Method Man, from what I understand, had a girlfriend who stuck by him no matter what when times were tough and he was coming up. And when he got rich, he got famous, he got noticed. There was some competition for his attention. From what I understand, he turned it all down and he stuck with the person who was by him in the lean years. He was as ride or die for her as she was for him, even when she got sick. He stuck by her and defended her. That shows exemplary character. From what I understand, he's a good man. My vote's Method Man.
Thank you, homie. That's a very good one. And I didn't know about that story, but that shows Method Man is a good guy. I met him at a King of the Dot rap battle in LA a few years ago. And it was a thing they used to do. I guess they still do, where rappers would battle a cappella. It was kind of cool, but Method Man was there just chilling, taking pictures. And he was just really humble. And I got a photo with him. So that's what's up. Okay, here we got a vote for ODB.
My favorite Wu-Tang member was the ODB, Old Dirty Bastard. And I loved him because he just liked it raw. He was as original and just great talent that was taken too soon. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. And now we got another vote for ODB. By the way, if you want to hear about a story of the time ODB worked with Insane Clown Posse on the 5th Joker's card, check out the newest episode at Hatchet Chat on my YouTube channel.
My favorite Wu-Tang member is the one and only ODB. Old Dirty Bastard, baby. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what's up. ODB, another vote. Now we got a call from a man, Mike Russo, who is a very talented, amazing dude. He plays guitar and bass for me. He's been my tour manager off and on. We've been friends for 15 years now. And anyway, he's been on the podcast, and he actually interviewed me for the episode about my life. Anyway, this is his vote. And I always trust what Mike says because he has really good taste in music, and he's one of my favorite people.
Hey, this is Mike Russo calling. If I had to pick a favorite Wu-Tang Clan member, I think I got to go with the RZA. I don't think it was until I saw the movie Ghost Dog in maybe 2000 and saw that he scored it that I kind of understood what his role in Wu-Tang was. But once I did, I just don't think there's any denying that beyond having great lyrics, beyond having an iconic physical voice, that his production has created an aesthetic that, really changed hip-hop and showed the possibilities of how you can take all sorts of influences from any kind of media or any kind of spiritual outlook and kind of blend everything together into one very unique stew that is yours and yours alone. He is the best. And at the end of the day, like all of us, he's just also a huge fan of music. And I saw him on a plane once, which is neither here nor there, but I do think was pretty cool.
Mike, I think you're pretty cool, and thank you for calling in. My favorite member is RZA. I don't know if I've said that, but yeah, because of his production, his rap style, his just everything. It's a really hard, I've found this, to put together a record with guests is not easy. And when we did the Digital Gangster LP with Whitey Cracker and me, we were in San Francisco, posted up, getting parts from people, having rappers come in and rap, and it's kind of hard to even put together an album with a bunch of features. Now imagine holding a group together with that many people. Now, Wu-Tang, maybe people say that didn't last that long, that ability for them to all work together. But when it worked, RZA was at the center of it, and amazing producer and a great writer, too. Check out his books. Okay, we got one more call. This is from my man, MC Snacks, up in Canada. You can hear us every month on Hatchet Chat.
What up, y'all? It's your homie MC Snacks here, calling to share my favorite Wu-Tang member, and that's got to be the one, the only, the Jizza. His work with the group is amazing. His work, solo work is amazing. I don't know anybody who drops knowledge like he does. Liquid Swords is one of my favorite hip-hop albums of all time, and he's just the bomb. Anyway, I hope y'all are doing well. Stay safe, homies. Peace.
MC Snacks, always doing great stuff. Thank you for calling in. All right, let's get into it. This is my interview with Devo Spice. Woo! Now, at the end of this interview, we're going to hear Devo Spice's Method Man parody about The Mandalorian, which is why I wanted to have everyone call in to share their favorite Wu-Tang members. So we'll tie it in at the end. But Devo Spice, we played a show together on the night Obama won in Jersey in 2008. But I've known about this dude for years because he was always up in the Weird Al Usenet forums, on the old school internet forums, the independent music forums, independent rap forums back in the 90s when I was just a young buck trying to get my start in the game with an MT4X Yamaha 4-track trying to get heard. And the community was always really supportive. Devo went on to help start the FuMP, which he runs, and some of the FuMP members include Insane Ian, Luke Ski, Shoebox of Worm Quartet. But on this interview, Devo talks about his time at RIT, and I actually talked to another RIT graduate, Theosin, a few months ago, and they were at the school at different times, but it struck me that the music community and the tech community and everything came together in an interesting way at RIT, in a way that was special, and why Rochester is such a cool place for culture and music and nerd life and all that. So he talks about this tape that he put out, one of the first ever internet compilations called the alt.rap.unsigned tape. And I asked Devo to talk a little bit more about it. Basically, some artists on there like DOA, Shy Guy Productions, DOL, MC Flash X, who went to start Ola.com and rapreviews.com, Lyrical Prophets, Union of Authority, and of course Sudden Death, which was Devo's original group, which he talks about, were all part of this project. And they all went on to do interesting things. But it's cool to think about an internet community where it was kind of impossible to send MP3s back then because the technology, of course, didn't exist. And they dubbed tapes for each other as a way to spread the music. It was too early in the years of CDR burning. So his experience in the music industry, I would say he got to start probably 10 years plus before me. And I feel like that was a very interesting time where you really had to be creative and you really had no idea if anyone was going to hear you. But the idea that one other hip hop head would be into your flavor, that's just dope. To think about that, right? And how media nowadays, it's you can just click and get every band's album in a second, and it's it doesn't really have the same value. Not to say that things are better now or worse now, but it was different. Also, I talk about how when I first heard his song with Luke Ski, the Peter Parker, which was a parody of Peter Piper by Run DMC, it blew my mind because I got into old school rap later, in the early 2000s in college. I started discovering all that stuff, and when I realized that there were people parodying these old songs, which, people weren't really talking about Run DMC much in 2003, other than a throwback, but they actually did a parody of it, and it was on Dr. Demento. I thought it was tight. So anyway, that's my intro to this interview with Devo Spice, and stick around after for his Mandalorian Method Man parody, which is pretty tight, and I'll say what's up at the end. All right, here we go. All right, everyone, you're tuned to the MC Lars podcast. I'm here with Devo Spice, a prolific artist who I've known for a very long time, who puts out so much good music, parodies and originals, nerdcore and comedy and dementia music. He's done a lot for the scene. He's a good guy, and he's one of those guys who's an unsung hero where I feel like in an alternate universe, Devo Spice would be as big as Weird Al. And I love him.
Oh, thank you, man.
How's it going, man?
I'm doing good. Hanging in there.
Do you have 3 kids or 2?
I have 3 kids.
To have time to talk to you for the podcast, we've been talking about this for a very long time, and I'm grateful to have you on, man.
We've been trying to schedule this for a long time, so I'm glad it finally happened.
because we were going to try to do it in real life, but then we realized that it would be great to see each other and hang out, but it would be logistically difficult. And now, thanks to COVID, everything is canceled.
We can't. Right. Everything's canceled.
When that parody came out, that was one of the first songs I remember hearing about the pandemic where I was like, I could laugh about it. It was very healing, amazing parody. So props on that.
Thank you. Early in the pandemic, somebody, I wish I knew who did it because I'd love to give them credit, but somebody made a meme of the little Lego characters with the "Everything is Awesome" logo, and it just said "Everything is canceled," and it was being shared around. And me being me, I was like, somebody needs to make that. Nobody's going to make that. I'm going to make that. So I made that.
And the video is cool because you have a lot of views, and you did it with Lego.
I did it with Lego, yeah. The video is not my strong point, so like I'm trying to get better at it. I just recently bought a better camera and stuff. So but with this video, I figured my kids have Lego,
right?
And I could just, hold the Lego characters up in front of the camera and call it a video, and it works for this particular song.
Like so many artists of the nerdcore and comedy artists, breaking into the viral YouTube world sometimes feels like learning a new language. We talk about this a lot on the podcast, like people like you and Luke, and YouTube is its own beast, right?
Yeah, it is.
You can have dozens of great parodies, but that's a very hard thing to translate into.
Yeah, and as I said, it's not my forte. So I think Everything is Canceled is now my highest viewed song, but for a long time, my highest viewed song was My Atari, which was a parody of My Adidas by Run DMC, and that video was just. I was hanging out at a convention with Shoebox of Worm Quartet, Rob Balder, and I forget who else was there. Luke was not there that weekend. And we were like, hey, we've got time because there wasn't a whole lot going on at the con. Let's film a video. So we recorded I gave the camera to Shoebox's wife, Kim. She, filmed us on the stage while we were performing the song at my show. And then we went up to the hotel room and we, filmed us in the hotel room, performing the song and hacked it together in a couple of days. And there's a video and that one got thousands of views, and these other videos I spend, lots of hours and sometimes hundreds of dollars on making this, video. And, I'll get 300 views,
It's like it used to be, in my experience, you put out a video and you'd be like, oh, cool, 5,000 views. That one didn't do so well. Nowadays, you put out a video, I feel like I'm lucky if I get 300, 400 views. And if I get more, it's like, oh, it's working. It's just because all the content, right? The deluge.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really hard to stand out. I think I'm going to name my next album Farting Into the Wind because that kind of feels like what I've been doing my whole career.
That's funny. But you've also built this project with so many of your collaborators. You put so much energy into the Funny Music project. And Luke talked about it on the show. And I had Worm Quartet on about a year ago, Tim. And this must take so much time running FuMP.
It does. I've got it down to a science at this point, but it does still take a lot of time. I work on it every day, if only to do the accounting, because, we get subscription payments every day. We sell MP3s and CDs every day. So, I need to record all of that so that at the end of the month, people like you can get their royalty checks.
Thank you.
And, so I handle the accounting. I handle the monthly statements and the payouts. I handle producing the bi-monthly compilation albums we do. I'm the one who designed and programmed the website. When stuff goes wrong on the website, like if it gets hacked, which has happened, I'm the one who has to deal with that. So I should have tattoos on my knuckles that say FuMP Life because that's kind of the way I live.
Plus being an artist, plus being a father, plus you have to pay the bills in other ways. You must feel do you ever sleep, dude?
I do. I make it a point to sleep. Yeah, I try to get a good 8 hours every night because I don't sleep well. So I try to at least if I'm not going to sleep well, at least I'm going to be in bed for 8 hours and I'm going to try to rest. But I'm very good at. I don't want to call it multitasking, but I'm very good at saying okay, it's going to take 10 minutes for this file to upload to the server. What can I do in that 10 minutes to be productive? And I'll sneak away and do something else while that's, and even if I come back 15 minutes later and the file's been up there for 5 minutes, that's fine. I get back to that task. So I'm very good at jumping from one task to the other and managing everything that needs to get done.
Seems like a lot of the OG internet artists who've been doing this for decades, like you have to have a very specific skill set, which is being able to manage the creative side and being like having the nerdy technical engineering perspective, the coding perspective, right? The understanding the back end and the file structure and everything. And so I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, when did you first realize this magical thing called the internet was a way you could help reach people with your music? Like, what was that moment like, and when did that happen for you?
Very early on. I was actually involved in what is probably the first ever internet compilation album. Back in 1992. I was in college, and there was on campus we had a bulletin board system. Actually, there were two of them. I don't remember which one came first. But we put together a compilation album for, musical artists who were on campus, and it was just, a variety of things. And then there was the alt.rap news group back in the day. And the people in alt.rap were like, you know what? There's a lot of talent on this board. Maybe we should put out a compilation album. And so I got involved in that. And that was, the RIT tape was 92. And the alt-rap compilation was either 92 or 93. And so we got together and we had like Shy Guy Productions and DOA, the other Asiatics they were called. A guy named Flash who runs a website called Original Hip Hop Lyric Archive. Lyrical Prophets, Blue Riddle Productions. I can't believe I'm remembering these names. I suck at names and I'm remembering these people.
It's pretty impressive.
But so what we did was there was a guy at RIT with me who actually produced the album. So everyone sent their cassettes to him. I hooked up with him, and that was T-Dub from Shy Guy Productions. And I was like, hey, I'm an artist. I can do the cover for you if you want. I'll just, tell me what you want it to say. I'll lay it out and do the design for the cover. So I did the cover. And we produced it, and the way it worked was we didn't want any money changing hands. So the way distribution worked was anyone who wanted a copy of the album needed to send a 60-minute blank tape to T-Dub. He would copy the tape and send it back. And that's how it was. And we sent out several hundred copies of this thing. Wow. It did pretty well. And back so that I was thinking, this is how I can reach potential fans. It was the alt-rap news group and the Rec Music Hip Hop and Rec Music Dementia news groups were the ones that I frequented the most. And then the web came by later, and
because that's interesting transition, because that's where I met Luke in like the 90s on the alt fan Weird Al or alt music Weird Al.
Alt music Weird Al. I remember you posting to the Weird Al news group. I remember that.
Really? You do?
I do, yes.
I was like, what advice can you give me? And Luke was like, here's how you get your stuff to Dr. Demento. I didn't realize you had seen that post too. That's kind of embarrassing.
Oh yeah. I was very big in the Weird Al news group too.
And the first song I heard was the obviously the Peter Parker Run DMC parody, and I thought that was so cool because it was produced really well. It was funny. Mm-hmm. It was like really fun to hear older rap be referenced, and everyone was so nice in that group. And like, it's so cool, man. Like that, like Frontalot's new record is kind of about how like that internet has gone away, right? Like his Net Split record is about how the internet used to be this fun place where you have nice, helpful people like Luke and you building compilations, and it's not to get too negative, but it's not necessarily just that these days. There is that community, but you've been there since the beginning because you're a few years older than me. So like you've seen everything come and change. And I don't know, man, how does it feel being like an OG internet musician and like seeing all these kids now blowing up on YouTube?
It's weird, yeah, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous of the people who came up behind me and then blew past me and now get millions of views on YouTube. But it's fun to watch good talent emerge. Like I remember watching you come up and blowing past me, and and
my old stuff, by the way, I mean, like was not that. Needed a lot of work, so like Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
Let me address that because I am so happy that I did not have the internet when I was starting doing music, because every piece of crap early sudden death track I ever recorded would have been up on my MySpace page for people to hear. And that stuff is just awful. And it's not that I'm like ashamed of it or anything. It's just it was recorded in my basement on a boombox with no microphones or anything. I literally I hit play on a tape behind me for the music, and then I rapped into the open air microphone on a boombox that was sitting on the floor in the middle of the basement. That's how I recorded,
That's tight.
And when I was 15, if I had the internet, I would have been like, oh, check out this awesome parody I just did, and put it up on MySpace, and it would have gotten destroyed.
So you're saying, Tom, that at that point you'd been able to develop your skills. So when you were at RIT, by the time you were working on this compilation, you felt like you'd kind of leveled up in a way that helped you stand out as an artist.
I got to be, by the time I was at RIT, I was good enough. By then I was recording on a 4-track. I knew how to use it. I still wasn't the best at it. I still didn't have the best equipment or anything, but I was good enough that if you listen to my stuff and you listen to the rest of the stuff that's on that alt-rap compilation, my stuff doesn't sound half bad. I mean, some of the stuff is really beautifully produced, and these people went into studios and stuff, but some of the other stuff is not as good as what I recorded as far as the sound quality and stuff goes. So I was good enough, and I'm constantly been improving over the years. I'm self-taught at damn near everything I do. So I learn as I go, and I'm gradually improving, and every so often I come across something that's like, how the hell did I not know that? I should have learned that 20 years ago. But, it's the way it happens when you're self-taught. You miss stuff.
Like you have that. Tim has this punk DIY like musical aesthetic of like do it yourself, build your community. You don't need the corporate structure to give you what you earn, because guess what? They can take it away. And you've been able to create this lasting community with all these elements. You've helped so many people, myself included. And by the way, I wanted to shout out Insane Ian, because I didn't mention him earlier, but like people who've been on the podcast who you've had a hand in fostering their career. And so I wonder, do you ever feel like you've become like a father figure in the scene, and you've been a mentor to a lot of people? Was that intentional, or like did that just kind of happen?
No, it just kind of happened. Do you know what the name of my company is by any chance? I'm curious.
Yeah.
It's called FIDIM Interactive, FIDIM. It stands for Fine, I'll Do It Myself. And that came about because in the 90s, I had gotten into producing video games, and I wanted to make my own video games, and I was an artist. I went to school for illustration, and I was like, great, I'll do the graphics. I'll hire a programmer, find a programmer to do the programming, and go from there. And we had a game that was almost done. We'd worked on it for like a year and a half, and then he just bailed on me when there was like one showstopper of a bug left, and I couldn't release the game with this bug in place, and he never sent me the code, so I was stuck. So I remember screaming, fine, I'll do it myself, and I taught myself how to program so I could release this damn game.
Yeah. And
so I did eventually reprogram the game from scratch and release it as shareware in the 90s. As when that happened, I realized fine, I'll do it myself, made this cool acronym FIDIM. And then my wife, Jen, my girlfriend at the time, told me that FIDIM sounds like the dog named Fido. So we came up with this logo of a cute little dog. So the dog's name is FIDIM, and that's the logo for the company.
Even the name of your parent company embodies that like spirit of we'll just get it done at any cost.
Yep.
There are limitations when you do it yourself, but it's also satisfying because it's from you. It's from your heart and soul.
Yeah, there are times when I wish I had a whole team of, people I can send off to do these huge projects, specifically videos. But it comes down to time or money and stuff, and it's like, which one do I have more of? And it's usually not money. So it's like, in order to get other people involved, you generally have to pay them.
Right.
And, we do have several very, very good volunteers working on some aspects of the FuMP, which I'm very appreciative for. We have Eclectic Lee, who runs our newsletter that we put out every month. We have Chris Allmiller, who runs the FuMP Sideshow. And Insane Ian runs our social media, so he's the one who handles the Twitter and Facebook accounts. So, that's one less thing for me to be worried about, which I was very grateful for when they stepped up.
You could be signed to it. Like I've been in a situation where working with a label, but then not knowing what's getting done, right? I'd rather in some ways just do it all myself because fine, I'll do it myself, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
to delegate sometimes can take more time.
It can. And I found that out because I read one of these, I've read a couple dozen books on running businesses and stuff. And, one of them was like finding volunteers and finding people to help you out and stuff. And there was one about virtual assistants, and you can go on these websites and hire virtual assistants. And what I found was I was spending more time coaching and training the virtual assistants to do what I needed done than I was saving by not doing the project myself. So like, if it took me 2 hours to do the project myself, I was spending 3.5 hours coaching them and fixing their mistakes and stuff. So and then I was paying them on top of it. I wasn't paying them a lot, but I was paying them on top of it. So it was like, it just wasn't worth it at all. So I quit doing that.
Let's talk a little bit about the early years of Tom Rockwell. You grew up in Connecticut, and you went to RIT.
I studied illustration at RIT. I have 3 degrees. I have a bachelor's in illustration, an associate's in graphic design, and a master's in art education. And my goal was to paint and get paid for it, basically. I wanted to do, album covers and book covers and stuff. And what I didn't know at the time, and what the school didn't teach me, was that the field of illustration was changing drastically while I was there. So they were teaching me how to do illustration the way illustration had been done for the past 30 years, and not taking into account what the computer and the computerization of the industry was going to do to the industry. And it may not be their fault. They probably didn't know. I mean, I was taught computers and how to do stuff on computers, but as far as the industry, as far as getting work and finding jobs and stuff like that, they didn't teach us anything about that. So I graduated and I was like, okay, now what? How do I find work? And what was happening was, as the computer took over the graphic design field, timelines got shorter and shorter and shorter. And where it used to be, you had a month to write an article for a magazine, now you had a week. Or sometimes 2 or 3 days. And that wasn't enough time to, figure out what type of illustration you need and source an illustrator and hire an illustrator and go back and forth with sketches and revisions and whatnot. And so that led to people using more and more stock photography and stock illustration. So the illustration field, as I knew it, as I was taught it, was destroyed in the 90s. And I was dumped right into the into the rubble. So I kind of went other directions. That was when I started focusing on video games. And after a few years of living in Rochester, we moved to New Jersey to be closer to both my family and my wife's family. And because of my background in both art and design and programming, I landed a job as a multimedia developer here in New Jersey, and that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. Doing web design, interactive CD design. Well, they don't do CDs anymore, but interactive presentations, things like that. Occasionally games. I'm actually still doing some video game development. Rochester was cold. There's no other way to describe it. It's cold and windy up there.
And with climate change, I follow the Rochester subreddit, and there was a post today about like how people are predicting that as the world gets hotter, cities like Rochester and like Seattle and the northern cities are going to have this boom, right? Like as their temperature becomes more mild compared to the rest of the world. And I guess one of the things I love about Rochester, I don't know if you feel me on this, people are very friendly there. I think more than other places. Maybe that's just because whenever we do shows there, they're like really good, but like it feels like there's a community sense up there, and everyone I met from up there is really nice.
Yeah, when I was in Rochester, I mean, especially going to shows, going to concerts there, I saw some fantastic shows in Rochester.
Like Water Street or Bug Jar.
I've several to Bug Jar. Club X was big when I was in college. That's not there anymore. And even the Rochester War Memorial. I saw Ice Cube and Method Man at the War Memorial.
That's tight.
And and the people, there were a couple people in War Memorial. There's thousands of people there. I was like one of a dozen white guys in the crowd, and everyone was like, a couple people recognized me from campus. People who I didn't know recognized me from campus, and were like, "Oh, you're that dude from camp walking around on campus with the PMS hat." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's me. Yeah, okay." So, yeah, I did a parody of OPP back in the day called PMS, and I made a hat that said "You down with PMS," and I wore it around campus because that was the '90s.
Holler. That's tight. You've been doing rap parodies since like rap was a thing almost. I remember I saw in your bio, you did one of your first moments you realized that got reaction is when you did the South Bronx. You performed that at a party where like the South Park. That story warmed my heart. A young Devo Spice fearlessly bringing some of his interests together. And so I guess one thing I wanted to ask is like, you were a white rapper before that was actually kind of even a thing, or you were one of the first.
Yeah, I
right?
was really. I started doing this in 1986, and back then there were no white rappers. I mean, other than there was one like part of like one of those like Grandmaster so and so and the whatever 7. There was one white guy in one of those groups. I remember which one, but it wasn't until the Beastie Boys really were the first ones who kind of became popular. They were the first white rappers who gained any kind of notoriety. I was a big fan of the Beastie Boys when they came out. I really liked what they were doing. But yeah, it was early on. I remember going into like record stores and before there was a rap section on the wall, and just looking for any song that had the word rap in the title because that would tell me that this was a rap album. That's what I had to do.
Right. So what was the first rap song you heard?
It was a Grandmaster Flash song. It would have been in the early 80s sometime. I don't remember which one. It might have been The Message. But I remember I was into breakdancing, and I remember a friend of mine who was also into breakdancing telling me I should listen to this one radio station out of New York City. So I did. And then this, Grandmaster Flash comes on and he just keeps going and going and going and going, like seemingly without breathing and going and going. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah. I wonder if it feel accessible, like something that you could try to do yourself, or did it feel too like alien to you?
No, I've got this like creative drive in me where wherever I see something cool, I want to do it myself. That's why I taught myself how to draw, I taught myself how to program, and when I learned about rap, and breakdancing too, when I learned about rap, I was like, I like this, and I bought a couple of compilation albums and I learned some of the songs, and I was like, yeah, this is, sometimes it's hard to find a place to breathe, but I like this, and I latched onto the Fat Boys very early because of the comedy aspect of what they did, because I'd been a fan of funny songs since I was little. I very early remember hearing Alan Sherman records and Weird Al Yankovic, and Tom Lehrer, and I got the Dr. Demento compilations when I was a kid. So I was big into the comedy. So when I started writing my own material, it seemed just natural to write funny rap songs because nobody else was doing it. It was fun.
What was one of your first songs you remember writing?
The very first song I wrote is called Infection. It's a parody of Perfection by Run DMC.
You could remix that now for COVID.
And it's not great, but honestly, it's not terrible. I've done worse songs since.
I have such a love for the same era of hip hop. I wonder if the mass audience even knows who Grandmaster Flash is, or even Run DMC. Like, you don't want to try to appeal to the kids, right? Like the Steve Buscemi, hello, fellow kids meme. Like, you don't want to do that. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know how many people would know that song who are younger than 30. Right?
Yeah.
Or 40.
Yeah, Infection is Perfection, especially because it was not a single.
Right.
It was on Raising Hell, and it was just the end, it was just a song. I did it because I had the idea and I wanted to write something. But yeah, and I ran into that. I actually have one of my son's friends is a fan of mine, and he was talking to me about how my music tends to appeal to people my age, and I was like, well, you write what you know.
Yeah.
I don't know what people your age are into. So this kid is 14 or 15, I guess.
Gosh, yeah.
So I'm like, I have no idea what you're into. I mean, I know Fortnite exists. I know Minecraft exists. I don't know what else there is. I don't know what you're into. I could research it and try to do a song about it, but then it would exactly be that meme.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Hello, fellow young people. Here's a rap song."
People like Luke, I remember he would do like pick obscure. He picks obscure songs to parody because he wants to, and I think that should always be the impetus for good art, and that's something I love about you, and that's why like when I heard your WAP parody, I was like, or when I heard your Old Town Road parody, like, I just love it when you do your take on new songs because you do that really well too. So it's, you have this duality in your artistic oeuvre, which I really like.
Yeah. For the parodies, I try to stay current or, at least find something that's current and popular, just so that it's a bigger audience because, I have a parody idea for Andy Up by MOP. I don't know that I'm ever going to do it. Because I don't know who remembers that song. I mean, I know people my age remember that song. I don't know if anyone younger than me remembers that song. But for the modern parodies, what I actually do is I'll go on iTunes and just see what the top 10 rap songs are, and just listen to them. And that's how I found WAP. And when I heard that song, I was like, "This sounds like a song that I should be parodying." It stuck out to me as this is a song that people are going to remember. And sure enough, it's the biggest hit of the year. So
I'd done mine, and somehow I missed that you'd done yours, and so it was like we're both like, oh, we both did the same song, but very different topics. Yours is about what happens when you try to give a cat a bath,
right? Yeah, mine's Wet Ass Pussycat.
And the sample is instead of that sample, you sample Schaefer's Cat People.
Yep.
For the beginning.
And big shout outs to Schaefer because he actually sent me an a cappella remix of his song so that I can sample it cleanly without the background music interfering. Shout outs to Schaefer. That was great.
What a guy. That's tight, Schaefer. For many years, you've been with different projects, and I wanted to talk. So, two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about Sudden Death and how that helped you transition into your solo stuff. And I also want to talk about the story with the Fat Boys guest verse when you did your Seven Deadly Sins song. So, since you mentioned the Fat Boys a few minutes ago, let's just talk about that story really quickly. You mentioned that it resolved and everything was okay, and then we'll talk about Sudden Death. So let's talk about that. What happened with that?
I was a big fan of the Fat Boys growing up, and every so often I like to I get nostalgic and I look around and I see if I can find where they are now, and couldn't find anything for years on what the Fat Boys were doing. And then I discovered one day after doing this that Prince Marky D was a DJ on a radio station in Florida. And then a little while after that, I learned that a guy named Uncle Louie was managing them and sort of got them back together and actually produced a new song back in 2009, I guess this was. And they were doing their thing, and they were going to do a reality TV show looking for a new human beatbox because unfortunately Buffy passed away in '95, and so it looked like they were going to do a minor comeback, and I was really excited. So with that, I informed Luke Ski of that, and then he did a parody of All You Can Eat called All You Can Tweet and got me involved on that. So that's a thing that exists too. And it was really cool. We sent that to Louis, who played it for Prince Marky D live on one of their webcasts.
Hey.
So Luke got to sit there and watch Prince Marky D react to his song live. It was fantastic. Oh, yeah, absolutely. He was like, yo, this dude is a fan. I love this. Yeah, it was great.
That's tight.
So fast forward a little bit more, and Louis puts out a tweet on Twitter that says, hey, anyone who wants to get the Fat Boys on a song, hit me up. And I was like, I probably can't afford this, but it couldn't hurt to ask. So I asked him, and he gave me a number, and he's like, look, I know you did the song. I know you're a huge fan. I'll give you this special price. And I was like, okay, I can come up with that amount of money. So let's do this. And so the idea was to do a song called Seven Deadly Sins where we embrace each of the seven deadly sins. And I was going to get to gluttony, and I was going to have Marky D interrupt me and then just do a classic Fat Boys verse all about gluttony.
Solid concept.
Yeah, I thought it worked. And then I had Luke Ski come in for Pride.
Okay.
So we made the arrangements. I sent him the money, and I said, look, I need the song by this date if I'm going to make it, for my album. And they said, yeah, no problem. So it got closer and closer and closer, and the recording hadn't materialized. And then finally he was like, yo, I'm going into the studio now. I'll take care of your song. And then that never materialized. I don't know what he did in the studio, but it wasn't my song. And then we got closer to the date, and I was like, like, look, it's not going to make this album, and they actually offered me a refund for the song. And I was like, no, I want the song to exist. Let's just push it out. Well, I'll put it on the next album. It's fine. And so it kept going, and the updates from the guys kept getting, fewer and farther in between. It got to the point where it was months before I heard anything. And then finally I had to pull the plug on. I'm like, look, this obviously isn't going to happen. Let's just cancel it. You just give me my money back and it'll be fine. And Louis refused to give me the money back. And his reasoning was that my deal was with Prince Marky D, and Mark hadn't sent me the verse. And I was like, but I paid you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you're the manager. I paid you. I don't know whether you gave the money to Mark or not, but I paid you. You're the one who owes me the money. And he was not happy with that. And he went on Twitter and, went on this rant on Twitter about how I'm a racist and I'm this and I'm that and other things. And I was like, whoa. Look, I'm not. let's settle down here a little bit.
Didn't he have Eric B. and Rakim retweet like some accusations or something like that?
No, what was happening? He controls all those Twitter accounts, so it was him. He logged in as Marky D, as Cool Rock Ski, as Eric B, as Rakim, as I think Special Ed. He also represents JJ Fad. So it was all these artists he represents. He was logging in as them and just calling me a racist and saying what a jerk I was.
And so, as someone who grew up loving the work of all these artists, that must have felt horrible.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was crushing. And after I realized that it was him doing it and not the artist, it was like, okay, it's just him. Whatever.
Yeah.
So I put a video up on YouTube explaining the whole situation, telling them, look, I was a huge Fat Boys fan, and this was like a fantastic opportunity to for the song to happen, and it didn't happen, and here's what's going on.
Yeah.
And I kept emailing Louis, and I'm like, look, I will take you to court for this. Let's just settle this. And I ended up going to small claims court and getting a judgment against him. And after that, and I think after he finally saw the video, he saw just what a huge fan I was, because what I said was like, look, I've been a fan all my life, and I held up this really rare Fat Boys 12-inch of Chillin' with the Refrigerator that they had put out, and William the Refrigerator Perry. And so he was like, he finally did send me the money back.
Okay.
He was like, yeah, look, I know he's like, I felt bad after I saw your video, so here's the money. So that was it. As far as I'm concerned, it's water under the bridge, and I'm fine. And if Louis or Mark hears this, if you still want to send me the verse, I will send you the money again. So I would still love for this song to happen.
Did you release it with a different guest doing Gluttony, or did you end up shelving it?
I had planned to. I was trying to find another overweight rapper who would be willing to make fat jokes. And I was like, I know there's a couple other overweight rappers out there. I don't know them well enough to say, hey, are you willing to come on a song and make fun of yourself and stuff? I did approach Billy the Fridge about doing it, and he was on board to do it, and he just never got me the verse either.
Okay. So this song has never come out. I didn't realize
it has never come out. No, there is a demo of the song with. I got Luke's vocals. I want to redo the music because I'm not really happy with it anymore. But and I have me filling in for the Marky D verse. So there is a demo of it that exists, but it's never seen the light of day. So had you written his parts for him? I did, and I told him if. Because that was early on. That was a source of some confusion because they weren't expecting that. And I said, look, here's what I wrote. If you don't want to say what I wrote, that's fine. Write your own verse or come up with your own stuff. Just make sure it's in the theme of the song. That's all. Yeah. When I did that song with Luke, when I did this Dementia Revolution song, he actually wrote my parts, which in some ways that can be helpful. Because it's like, oh, well, all you have to do is record it. That's I didn't realize that story had a lot of nuances to it. And as a fan, it's interesting how you've kind of made peace with it and you have no ill will. I think that shows how big of a fan you are. Yeah, and even like shortly after that went down, I went back and listened to some of the Fat Boy songs, because I'm one of those people who has a hard time separating the art from the artist. And if I find out the the artist is a douchebag. I have a hard time enjoying their music. But I went back and I re-listened to the Fat Boy stuff, and I was like, yeah, I still enjoy this. You know, I hold no grudges against the Fat Boys or anything for this.
They weren't really a group that I kind of grew up after they were popular, and because of your story and your YouTube video, I got into them and I watched Disorderlies, and like I would listen to them, and they're awesome, man.
The
music.
Disorderlies is fantastic. Their scenes in Crush Groove are amazing. You know,
was Crush Groove was kind of how they got their start, right?
No, Crush Groove was they got their start because they won a rap contest in Brooklyn, and then that led to a single contract, which led to an album contract. But they had gotten really popular with the release of their first album and maybe two. And then Crush Groove was in production, and they were like, look, we need to work the Fat Boys into Crush Groove. So that's what they did. That's why their story is a little, it kind of like is off to the side of the main plot, and then it kind of merges at the end. That's why.
What were they called before the Fat Boys?
The Disco 3. And I actually have a 12-inch of one of the Disco 3 songs.
Well, speaking of name changes and speaking of new chapters and careers, let's talk about Sudden Death. And because I noticed on Spotify you have like a greatest hits compilation.
Yes.
The Rhythms from the Crypt. You have two, volume 1 and 2, Rhythms from the Crypt, the Best of Sudden Death. So was this was a project you fronted, or was this like? Let's talk a little bit about that.
It was the same thing that I'm doing now, just under a different name. And the reason was when we started this on April 23rd, 1986. I remember the date.
Hey.
I was on the bus with my friends Dave and Scott, and I leaned over and I said, "Hey, you want to form a rap group?" And they said, "Okay," and it began. That's literally how it went. And then a year and a half later, we managed to record Infection. It took us that long to get to get everything organized and do it. But my idea for the Sudden Death was a group. It was supposed to be a group effort with of the three of us doing comedy, and I was always the only one who was really super into it.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing most of the work, which I didn't mind. As time went on, I realized, what happened was I started immediately sending songs to the Dr. Demento show. And in 1990, I got my first bit of airplay with a song called I'm Bored. And so once that happened, I was like, okay, I need to, move this project faster along. So I kind of took the role of the lead rapper in Sudden Death, and the other guys kind of faded to the background. And what I wanted to do was restructure it kind of like Digital Underground, where we'd have a whole bunch of different rappers all doing, working on this one cohesive project. And it never worked out that way. I was always the one who did 95% of the work. The other guys were around. They helped me out. They did co-vocals, occasionally little bits of writing here and there, occasionally a little bit of music. Later on, I got the other Tom in Sudden Death. He went by several names. I think the last one was the Professor. I got him to do a lot of the music. So the late Sudden Death stuff has a lot of his music, which I love. I love his production skills. And so but we operated like that until 2008, where it was still me doing most of the work, but I kept pretending I had a group, just because I felt like it. I was mostly trying to fool myself into thinking I had a group. And then, in the mid to late 2000s, as I was performing out more and I was releasing better music and starting to get better known, it started to become problematic because there are other bands out there using the name Sudden Death. Most of them are heavy metal bands. And in fact, back in the MySpace days, there was a death metal band from Florida called Sudden Death who friended me on MySpace and said they loved what I was doing and that we should go on tour together.
So that was... And you were Sudden Death on MySpace.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's do it. Let's confuse the crap out of the fans, So, but it started to become problematic because there were, people reviewing albums on iTunes going, hey, wait, is this the same Sudden Death that did this other thing? Are these the same people? Whatever. So it got to be, a problem. So in 2008, I was like, I had an epic year in 2007 on the Dr. Demento show. I was releasing a ton of stuff. I had several number one songs on the Dr. Demento countdowns. I had the number one most requested song of the year, the number two most requested song of the year, the number four most requested song of the year, and I was the guest vocalist on song number 5. So basically, 4 of the top 5 songs were mine. And so I had an epic year on the Dr. Demento show. And then the next year, I'm like, I need to change my name because it's becoming a problem. And I was like, I hate to lose all this momentum I've built up, but I kind of have to do it. So previously I was Tom Rockwell, a.k.a. Devo Spice of Sudden Death. I do comedy rap. I'm part of a group. It really is a group. There are other people who help me out, but I do most of the work anyway. And when I show up, I perform solo. Got it. That was the explanation I had to have with every damn person I spoke to. Right. And after I dropped the group name Sudden Death, it was, hi, I'm Devo Spice. I do funny rap songs. And it clicked. It felt better. It worked better. It was just much easier branding.
And so that is like, if you were a member of the Spice Girls that happened to be a fan of Devo, is that what it's from? Or like that's...
No, it dates back to my breakdancing days, actually, because one of the other skills I had as a kid that I self-taught was I used to do sound effects with my mouth, like a la Michael Winslow from Police Academy.
That's right.
And I was quite good at it for a while, and then my voice changed, and I lost a lot of them. But anyway, so when I was on vacation with my family in Florida, and we happened upon a whole bunch of breakdancers in the middle of the street, and they didn't have a radio for music, so there was this one guy beatboxing off on the side, and then they were just dancing. And I overheard somebody refer to his spice, referring to his sounds, and I was like, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Oh, okay.
So it was like local slang. I don't think it ever caught on anywhere else, but that's where I heard it. And Devo was just short for devastating, even though it's spelled a little different.
Yeah.
So that's all.
And those guys, those breakdancers, happen to be in the metal band Sudden Death. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah. That would be funny.
That's tight. Okay. So that's cool. There's a lot of history, a lot of backstory. A memory of a show we did together early on was 2008 on tour with Frontalot. You opened for us on the night Obama won in Jersey.
Election night. I remember that. That was fun.
That was an exciting night. And it was not, I think a lot of people were at home watching. It was a great show, but it was like, should we do a show on election night? Oh, well, it was fun.
Yeah, it was not well attended.
No.
Like most of my shows are not well attended. There's like this comedy music curse where I show up for a show and nobody else does. I don't know. I don't understand it, but that's the way it happens.
Well, I've been there too, man. And my last question for you, Tom, what is the best show you've ever played? Like, it was like, wow, that was an awesome show that stands out in your mind.
The show that usually stands out in my mind is, a lot of the shows I've done with Psycho Stick have been amazing, but the one that really jumps out to me is Worldcon in 2008, I believe it was. So Worldcon is the World Science Fiction Convention. This was taking place in Reno, Nevada, and they had Dr. Demento as one of their guests. So I contacted the organizers and I was like, hey, I just had several huge hits on the Dr. Demento show. I'd love to come out and perform. And Dr. Demento called me up on stage during his Festival of Dementia to do a song. And I did the song that was number 1 the previous year in front of 1,000 people who laughed their fool heads off the entire time. And it was just amazing. It was an amazing performance. It was an amazing show. It was just the greatest feeling in the world to have 1,000 or 1,200 people in this room just laughing hysterically at what I'm doing up on stage. It was the greatest thing.
People who were on board with Demento, on board with the comedy music legacy. Did you have video with it, or is it just the track?
That was just the track, I believe, because we were using... Oh, actually, you know what? I might have, because he plays videos during his performances, so I might have given him the video to play. I don't remember, to be honest.
What was the song?
Cellular Degeneration.
Right. Wait, is that an original?
That's an original song about cell phone technology, how you can do everything with a cell phone except make phone calls.
Right. That's tight. That must have been awesome, like an 8 Mile moment
It was, yeah. That was definitely my 8 Mile moment.
That's what's up. There's nothing on the horizon until the vaccine, right? Like in terms of like FuMP Fest or anything.
Well, we are planning FuMP Fest. We had to postpone this year's in-person FuMP Fest, and we did an online event in August. So we are currently planning FuMP Fest 2021 with Dr. Demento as our guest of honor. It's going to take place in Chicago, pandemic permitting. So we're hoping there's going to be a vaccine by then, and we'll be able to do things safely. If we have to postpone again, we will, but we're really hoping we don't have to. I just miss going to the movies,
Yeah, man. I missed a lot of things, but I don't miss that we did this awesome episode.
Yeah. My latest album is called The Anarchist Joke Book. It includes the #1 song on the Dr. Demento show of 2019, which is Spider-Verses, which is a big group jam I did about the movie Into the Spider-Verse. That's available on my Bandcamp page at devospice.bandcamp.com. You can also hit me up on my website at devospice.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at devospice. I don't use them a whole lot, but I'm on there. If you're interested in the older sudden death stuff, that is up on Bandcamp as well on a separate link. That's suddendeathrap.bandcamp.com. That's all the old stuff of questionable quality. And the further back you go, the crappier it gets. So just be prepared. That does not have Infection. Infection was released on, I put out a 10th anniversary tape in 1996, and Infection was on that. I can send you a copy if you want. Infection was on one of the Rhythms from the Crypt compilations, but I don't remember what. It might have been the special volume 3 that was only available to backers on Kickstarter.
Your Dead Things Could Rap 2 album reminds me a lot of the MC Chris is Dead album cover, and I'm imagining yours came out before his, many years.
That came out in January of 1992.
It's the rapper with the hat crawling out of the grave with a microphone. Even the expression is the same. I'm not saying that Chris ever knew this, but it's a coincidence. I don't know. Have you ever seen? You've seen his record, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. I don't mean to derail your plug. I'm just on the Bandcamp now. I wanted to mention that.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
That's what's up. And then the FuMP is people can subscribe, right? Or how does that work financially? Real quick.
So the FuMP, we post 2 new comedy songs every week, one on Tuesday, one on Friday, and every so often there's a Sunday song that gets thrown in. And those are available initially as a free download. So you can just go to the website, click download, and get it for free. And then after it, every time a new song gets posted, each song gets pushed down 1 slot, and then when it gets to the bottom, it goes to the archive. And once it's in the archive, if you want to download it, we ask for 99 cents. And then if you want a high quality download, it's 99 cents. And then every 2 months, we put out a compilation album with the previous 2 months' songs, plus usually a bonus video of some kind. And we offer subscriptions. So if you pay $5 a month, you get all the high quality downloads that your bandwidth can manage, including the compilation albums, or if you want the individual songs or whatever. And for $10 a month, you get the physical CD compilation albums if you're still the type of person who collects physical media. So that's where our money comes from.
Do you still put them all on Spotify or not?
Yes. They all go up on iTunes. They all go up on Spotify, Amazon Music. There's a bit of a lag from the time because I don't put the individual songs up on Spotify. I only put the albums up. So sometimes it can be a month or two from the time a song hits the FuMP to the time it appears on Spotify. But they all do go up there.
And my Schrodinger's Cat song was on the volume 66, I remember.
Yep.
Please support my man in any way you can. Support the FuMP. He's got good morals. And I appreciate this interview. This was a good interview. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, man.
From the deserts of Mandalore he comes. Strikes again, Din Djarin does. With wrist rockets and jetpacks and far more dialogue than Boba Fett he has. The Mandalorian, he is.
M-A-N-DeLorean, M-A-N DeLorean, M-A-N DeLorean, M-A-N DeLorean. Hey, you Put down that child. You don't know me and you don't know my style. Always get my man when I come with a plan. Here I am, I'm the man, DeLorean. Pew 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 from the flashes on my wrist. Unlike stormtroopers, I rarely miss. Got some Beskar paid for a favor. That stuff is impervious to lightsabers. Wham! Track my man from here to Hoth, and I don't ever take my helmet off. Style is classic, straight from the tribe. You'll be like, oh man, can't describe. Piss me off and watch me get wild and then go and blow everything up. Upside, downside, inside and outside, hitting you from every angle. There's no doubt I always complete my mission and have great aim with no peripheral vision. Back, now please pay for what I did. Hold up, what's gonna happen to the kid right there? I know I'm paid up and we're square, but this doesn't look like daycare. And I can't sit back and watch him get killed, so I'm about to break every rule in the guild. Coming like raw, ooh, I'll break him out. Tell me now exactly what you're gonna do about. I saved the kid from hardship, now a far trip. I'm hoping that he doesn't get car sick. What happened to my starship? Oh damn it, another chop shop on the Jawa's planet. Hey, give me that stuff back. Man, I can't believe that I got carjacked. It's a mess.
Alright, y'all. Karga, take flank. Dune, cover me. IG-11, protect the child. We're gonna take out Moff Gideon and all his Imperial cronies.
I got a Boba Fett hat, I got myself a jetpack, and I'm about to go get lifted. Yes, I'm about to go get lifted. He's got a fast TIE fighter, he's got a new wing rider. Maybe this wasn't such a great plan. No, I don't think this was such a great plan. M-O-F-F, Moff Gideon. Haven't seen him since I was a young foundling. Zoom, he hit the ground like boom, but he made it out. I'll probably see him again. Question, what exactly is a Tusken Raider? Signed a favor by Nox, we made a trade for. Never trust a droid, I'm a firm disbeliever. Also people don't trust them much either. Not an average Joe with an average foe, doing average jobs for average Joe. Quills and Ugnaught, a lovely old bloke who says, I have spoken. Check it, my life can be pretty hectic, but when I get a charge, I collect it. Sometimes iffy, these people are shifty. All of this for a kid who's like 50. Like Dark Helmet, who said with a cling, I can't breathe in this thing. Mandalorian, you sent for. Yes, therefore I come from Mandalore. Duh, they raised me up when I was stray. Child, I'll care for him cause that's our way. Someone tell me why I'm inclined and how he can move things with his mind. Meaning I'm stuck with him and have to go look till I can find his people in the phone book. But for now my honor is restored. I'm clear with the guild, kids safely aboard. So how many years will it take for me to search the galaxy for this kid's race? Well, I guess that depends on the Disney clan and just how much money they can make. So before the next season's through, you know what you are gonna have to do. Please just don't make a fuss and come join up with us and subscribe now to Disney Plus and watch the M.A.N. DeLorean, M.A.N. DeLorean, M.A.N. DeLorean. Here I am, I'm the man, DeLorean.
Straight from the mind of the most powerful mouse on the planet, giving you yet another service to subscribe to. And just when you thought it might actually be cheaper when you canceled cable.
Ha-ha! We got you back, sucker! This is the way!
That parody was so good and very, very much in alignment of my interest. Thank you, Devo Spice. Tune in next month. We'll be back March 3rd for episode 117 with Chesky from Fake 4. And Chesky is a dude who's amazing performer, really nice guy, and he was really interesting to talk to because it turns out we both lived in Oakland, the Bay Area, at the same time. So we go deep into how that influenced us as artists, and we talk about creativity during COVID. So check that out. Thank y'all for listening, and go to patreon.com/MCLars to hear my new Star Wars Episode 4 song. Holler!